Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Great to see so many of you here today. My name's Joe McLoughlin. I'm the Managing Director of Carium. I'm on week 8 of my new role here, and I must say I'm absolutely delighted. I've come into an amazing organisation with some fantastic people. I'm really looking forward to sharing some of the work that we're doing with you here today. Prior to this role, for many years, I was the Managing Director at Astroline. And prior to that, and I may know some of you on this call from my time there, I was the National Account Director at Centra. And I've just completed 3 years on the TSA's Quality Improvement Programme Board. You'll be aware that they've just gone through a refresh of their governance structure. And happy to say that we've got some of our people, particularly Gary here, involved in that new governance structure. And I'm migrating, now that I've done my 3-year term, I'm migrating onto the Innovation and Challenge panel for that new governance structure. So I'm just going to start with this, setting a little bit of context around resilience, really. Resilience is one of the words of the 21st century, I would say. We hear it everywhere. We've been hearing it all weekend in relation to CrowdStrike and what had happened there, one of the biggest IT outages we've ever heard of in the industry, but also more recently in the COVID inquiry, as they've been going through the summing up in that inquiry. They've talked a lot about the resilience of the UK going into that pandemic and whether we were truly ready for that. So I believe that resilience is central to our mission here at Carium around enabling millions to live rich, safe and active lives through technology and that always-on connection. We all work in telecare. We know connectivity and response can literally be a matter of life and death, life or death. So hence our excitement of being able to introduce our new line of defence, which is the rSIM. The challenges that we've gone through over the last few years with the analog to digital switch have been manifold. So I would say that, we've been helping many of our customers over the last few years to think through their analog to digital plans. If you haven't yet reached out, then do contact us from this meeting here and we can help you with those. There's huge opportunities to rethink the customer offer using data and insight and that proactive and preventative approach which you can create through using the benefits of digital and that connection that we talk about. So ultimately, it's all about building the personal resilience of your customers, and we're very much going to talk to you in detail about that today. So just to sum up then, we're going to go onto the agenda. We've got around an hour for this session. Thank you all for attending. We've got an all-star lineup today, the best of industry and our very own subject matter experts in Gary and Wayne. Each person that speaks is going to introduce themselves and they'll also share their own slides. So you'll be able to hear direct from that person as they introduce themselves. A little bit of housekeeping. There's no break. We're going to go just straight through. We will do our best to keep to time. I'm probably already running over, but you know how these things are. When the person is speaking, mics and cameras are off. But what we're going to do throughout the session and really encourage you to be doing is use the Q&A section that you'll see in the presentation in the Teams environment. Use that to raise your questions or your queries as we go through the meeting, and Charlene will do her best then to moderate those. Charlene will be looking to pick up any questions or any key points that haven't been picked up through the presentation. So we'll look forward to all of that. Really excited to get going with our panel and hope you enjoy the session. I'm now going to stop sharing and Gary's going to be up next. Over to you, Gary.
Thank you, Joe, very much for setting the scene so beautifully. Hoping everybody can see my screen. As Joe said, my name's Gary Clark. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carium's Technical Director. And before I take you through the benefits and some of the technicalities, high-level technicalities of rSIM, just a little bit about me. So It's a real pleasure to present to you all today. Very grateful for you taking the time out of your day to be a part of the webinar. I've had the pleasure of working for Carium for just over 2 years now, lead on technology and innovation, but I've been working within the telecare sector for just shy of 19 years. Probably don't look old enough, but believe me, there are some greys in this head of hair. I spent 5 of those 19 years leading the development of the first end-to-end digital group living solution for another business in the sector, and have therefore navigated and tried to resolve some of the challenges of digital's introduction into the tech industry. For those of you that do know me on the call today, you'll know that tech is very much embedded in my blood and that I'm immensely passionate about technology-enabled care. And equally, I'm extremely proud to have led the introduction of rSIM into the UK for Carium. So, as we said, we have the pleasure of introducing rSIM to you. And with rSIM, which stands for Resilient SIM, we introduce a solution that goes one step further. It's a SIM that exceeds that functionality of a typical roaming SIM that you may see in a Telecare device today. It's a SIM that resiliently and consistently tests its end-to-end connectivity every 60 seconds, ensuring that it remains connected and operational when it's needed the most. Ultimately, it ensures device connectivity and a smooth data transfer to the monitoring centre in case of an emergency alarm. An rSIM is a unique solution in the telecare sector. Tried and tested within the security sector, it provides a connectivity insurance. What's unique is that it sends a heartbeat or a pulse, some people call it, every 60 seconds proactively, instead of it reacting at the point of when an actual alarm has been triggered by the user. And this ensures that connectivity is established when the user requires assistance. So it's been very smartly designed, and the connectivity works in 2 layers. So there is some local network redundancy, and we'll all know that the de facto method of connectivity today for a digital telecare device is the mobile network. And you'll be aware that most of our telecare devices already have roaming SIMs inside them that have access to all the UK local networks. However, rSIM works smarter and quicker. Should any of our devices with the rSIM fitted encounter a connectivity issue due to a local network problem with one of the UK local networks, then the SIM will react and the device will seamlessly transition to a new local network quicker if it's available, all while keeping the rSIM profile unchanged. And then there is an added layer of resilience in here, which is the core network redundancy. So should the issue be related to the core network operator, in effect the backbone that sits behind the local networks, that's Tele2 in most circumstances, then it will switch to the backup SIM profile, and that will occur after the 10th missed SIM heartbeat or pulse in a sequence, so 10 minutes in total, ensuring that it maintains connectivity and uninterrupted access to the network. And it's important to highlight, as I've walked through that the 60-second pulse or heartbeat that's sent by the SIM is completely independent to that of the device heartbeat. So every digital telecare device sends a heartbeat generally to the device management portal. And on our devices, that happens every 2 minutes. And therefore, that heartbeat and the SIM heartbeat work in conjunction with each other to provide the utmost resilience. So for clarity, the rSIM is one SIM, one single SIM card with 2 independent core network profiles, a primary and a backup. You'll be aware that some mobile phones offer dual SIM functionality, and that's generally 2 independent pieces of plastic which sit on 2 different networks. But as I said, rSIM is different. It's smarter than your bog standard single SIM or roaming SIM card. So the two profiles that sit on the rSIM itself, the Tele2 CSL supported profile is the primary, and the CSL supported Deutsche Telekom profile is the backup SIM profile. And it's important to note that each of those profiles have a unique telephone number. So they have separate telephone numbers, and this two telephone number setup needs to be supported by the alarm receiving platform. And although we've conducted tests with leading monitoring providers with the rSIM and our devices, it's just worth checking that it is compatible with your alarm receiving platform, just in case there's any quirks or anomalies about your platform in particular. So if we just imagine for 1 minute that we've in a perfect world scenario and we have rSIMs fitted in all of our field devices, and we fast forward to a real incident or outage on that primary Tele2 SIM profile, and the SIM has automatically and proactively switched to its backup to maintain connectivity, and the end user doesn't know anything different. Superb. But following the outage resolution, after 12 hours on that backup profile that we spoke of, the SIM and device will revert back to the primary SIM profile. And we advocate that SIM to return to the primary profile because, generally we always have a primary and a backup, and the primary offers greater resilience and support. So at this stage, the affected SIMs will commence the return process. And whilst an individual SIM transition is almost instantaneous, we have a batch process in place that will be randomized within a 2-hour window. Why, you might ask, and that may have come up in one of the questions later. But if you think of it simply like, for those of us that originate from the south, the M25 motorway, probably the worst motorway in the country. At rush hour, there's so much traffic on that motorway. People are trying to get to a very similar destination. And if there was better traffic management, then it would reduce congestion. And really, it's the same process here. So that protocol about that randomized process back is to ensure a safe migration to prevent a signaling storm, if you've heard that referred to in the past. And it's important to note that it will be extremely rare for an outage to last any more than 12 hours, which is why that time period has been selected for its return back to the primary SIM profile. However, if it does extend for longer than 12 hours, then the SIM will try and regain its connection to the primary profile, realise it cannot, and then it will sit continuously on the backup profile for another 12 hours. Now, following me talking through all the technicalities on those previous slides, hopefully you followed, I think this diagram really demonstrates the intelligent process that the rSIM goes through at a high level. Probably explains it better than I can. So first step is that the rSIM, as we said, proactively and automatically checks its connection every 60 seconds in order to detect and react to problems faster. And it allows enough time for the device to roam to another local mobile network, if that's the issue, to restore its data connection. So you'll be familiar with all of those UK local mobile networks. Free, Vodafone, O2, EE, for instance, or Virgin O2 as it is now. But if that loss of connection to that local network persists, the rSIM will switch its core profile to the second independent or backup profile, as we call it in Deutsche Telekom. And after 12 hours of the rSIM being on that backup profile, as we said, then it will automatically revert to the primary profile if it can, providing the issue is resolved. And again, this really neatly maps out the timings and the technical process that the rSIM goes through, really smartly designed. And as you can see, the blue shaded area here is this successful 60-second test or poll to ensure that it's got connectivity. The red area that you see is when it goes into, what we would class as failure detection. So it can't reach the other end, it can't say hello, it can't get a response back. So the 10 continuously failed heartbeats or pulse, and then this instant transition over to the backup profile in Deutsche Telekom, where it sits for 12 hours at such time that it will start this randomized 2-hour process back, albeit that the transition of a single SIM is instantaneous, and you're back on the primary profile after that period of time. Incidentally, you may ask, what is this 5-minute polling delay you see here? Well, in effect, that's just a free period of activity during its return so that we don't overcrowd the device with any form of excess data that it doesn't need during its reconnection. Alarms will still be successfully delivered during that period of time, but it just leaves the device, quite safe in its migration back to the relevant profile. And moving on to what we would see as a genuine previous issue with a standard SIM compared to an rSIM. This graphic really demonstrates the power of rSIM today. And if we rewind to what was a genuine outage of nearly 8 hours on a standard roaming SIM card, some years ago, that issue, as you can see, and we don't expect you to see all of this text, we'll be sharing the slides following the webinar, but at a high level, that issue only lasted around about 2.5, nearly 3 hours to get to a resolution. But the excess, 3 or 4 hours after that was manually trying to get SIMs to reconnect to the network again. And outages are very rare. However, when they do happen, traditionally they can be quite a length of period of time. And if we compare that to the intelligence of rSIM, that downtime reduces to a 10-minute period. And that's because of the intelligence that the design process for the rSIM has gone through and that randomized period of return to the relevant profiles when that takes place. So you'll be pleased to know that that's the end of the technical detail. Hopefully I've explained that we can all understand and you can really see the benefits and how revolutionary rSIM is for the sector. And I know, as well as probably all of you do, that the introduction of digital has been confusing and complex, for some in the sector. And therefore, within the rSIM journey and the introduction into the market, we've tried to make the transition as easy as possible for our customers. So we've produced a set of supporting literature, which is available right now, including frequently asked questions, a benefits flyer and an infographic, a video, which is available on our YouTube channel today, which is me talking through the rSIM process. A process guide for retrofitting the rSIM into a device, because you may want to increase the resilience of your devices that are currently in the field today. And a process guide which our customers have helped us with for adding rSIM to the relevant monitoring platforms. So as much as we can to help you and guide you through that process. And if you do require any of this documentation, then please do feel free to get in touch with your key account manager who will gladly assist you with that process. So now the rSIM's officially launched into the market. During the last few weeks, we invited and also had some volunteers of customers, many of you which are on the call today, to be a part of the rSIM field trials. Prior to the field trials, we conducted a substantial amount of testing with our partner CSL, and Max is on the call today, to gain confidence in the functionality and get hands-on with the technology so that we're able to inform and guide our customers accordingly. The field trials with our customers took place over a 5 to 6 week period, and we gathered the number of customers that wanted to be involved in the field test trials. We sent them the number of SIMs that they required, and also obtained email addresses that we could continually communicate with them during the process. We also circulated a test plan, which some customers used to help them feed back and perform the relevant tests that they needed to. And ultimately, the testing involved 2 planned outages on a weekly basis, one on a Tuesday and one on a Thursday, where we simulated an outage to the backup profile, and then it sat on the backup profile for a 12-hour period before its return. And during that period of time, we urged customers to, resiliently test their devices and feedback any minor issues that they may have seen, and also recommended testing on the different technologies available. So the 2G, 3G and 4G technologies separately, because, some areas may not have access to the different technologies. We're really pleased and proud to say that we had over 60 testers each week, across around 15 to 20 customers, and we're really grateful for everybody being a part of that. And that enabled us to put some of the literature together with some of that feedback that we showed you on the previous slide. Any feedback that we did receive from customers, we reviewed and received, thankfully, no substantial issues, and any minor issues were troubleshooted and resolved quickly, and naturally fed back to the customers that highlighted that. And as you can probably understand, implementing a countrywide testing program like that wasn't particularly easy, but we were overwhelmed by the input and the feedback that we received from those number of customers that did participate. So once again, thank you for being a part of that. And that leads me kind of nicely onto a small question and answer session with 2 individuals that we've been delighted to be joined by, who were part of that rSIM test process that I explained. So we have Andy Robertson, Telecare Development Officer from South Lanarkshire Council, who's one of Carium's largest customers. And also delighted to have Tim Mulrey, Strategy and Transformation Lead at the TSA, joining us as well. So chaps, if you wouldn't mind just popping your camera and microphones on, and we will ask you a few questions to see how your process with the rSIM transpired.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Andy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Andy, if you don't mind, we'll start with yourself.
Yeah.
Thanks ever so much for joining us. As I said, perhaps you could give us a brief insight into yourself for the audience, and also your role and South Lanarkshire's tech service. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to be here. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Gary. My name's Andy Robertson. I'm a Telecare Development Officer with South Lanarkshire Council's tech team up here in Scotland. I've been with the council for 31 years. 4 of those years have been with the tech team, and I am the lead worker for testing and alarm investigation, which I do quite extensively on a weekly basis. To give you a brief overview of the council, just so it gives you a better understanding where we're coming from and testing process that I've been involved in. The South Lanarkshire Council is based in central Scotland, collectively has approximately 320,000 people resident. There's a fair number of people there. It has 4 main localities that we support and oversee, which is Clydesdale, Hamilton, East Kilbride, and jointly, which is Cambuslang and Robertson. The South Lanarkshire Council Tech Team is an integrated team. It has 2 main partnership working teams, one of which I am involved in, the Telecare, which is South Lanarkshire only, and Telehealth, which is NHS, which is Pan Lanarkshire. So there's 2 joint working partnerships that are very close together. The tech team provide community alarms throughout the South Lanarkshire Council area. We have a digital team based in local office in the Cambuslang locality who manage and support all the installs, as well as any public inquiries related to community alarm service that we provide. And we also have a specialised tech zone in Blantyre and supporting Telecare, Telehealth and consumer technology. So community alarms is right at the centre and in the heart of our service that we provide. Overall, we have approximately 7,000 community alarm service users at the moment, and we presently have active Carium alarms is approximately 5,200. So there's a fair amount there. The relationship with Carium, South Lanarkshire Council relationship with Carium started a way back in January 2020. At this time I started testing the Care IPs for them and for us as well, to work with their sort of alarm control centres. And they have remained to be our main provider and link peripheral provider as well. We presently use the Care IP extensively for all our installs and looking to utilise the ELISA alarm in conjunction with a proposed new digital alarm receiving centre, which will be active later this year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, and you say extensively deploy the Care IP alarms, but I say we gave you access to our Care alarm platform so that you could test the ELISAs and get a feel for how they performed, etc. And with that in mind, briefly kind of walk us through your test process that you adopted and how you felt the results were.
Yeah. The testing process we categorised into 4 stages, specific testing criteria with the rSIMs being used. Stage 1 was setting up the ELISA and applying the templates, the electronic programming. Stage 2 was testing with our own Sky Response test environment and also Carium's alarm control centre, which was greatly appreciated to test the functionality and connection status much further. We also looked at stage 3, which was performing test calls at the specific times which you mentioned, Gary, and the dates to encompass the planned outages. And stage 4, leaving the units on live 24/7 and to read the logs and see the rSIM activity during the test outages and normal pathway operation as well. The test results, the ELISA alarm product logs, which is where we read them on the digital management platform, evidence the rSIM connection pathway through the core network via the Tele2 route, the standard route, which you touched upon, which should be out at the base level. And the ELISA logs also evidence the rSIM connection pathway through the core network via the Deutsche Telekom during the simulated network Tele2 outage, which was great, and that worked lovely. We could evidence these changes not only in historical logs as well, but also in live monitoring, where we would look at the logs at new time and refresh and then pull these logs forward, where I could also see the updates of the evidence of what they are, what specific rSIM profile was in use to tell me which way it was being routed. And I could also see the evidence of logs returning to the Tele2 core pathway over a period of time, as you touched upon, to avoid the signalling storm as well. And we did all this on laptops as well as handheld phones when I was on annual leave. I had a quick jump on just to look and see what was happening to get a bit of a bigger picture. How did the devices perform? Well, they performed very well, I have to say. As dear surprise at the immense speed and connection to the ARC system through not only the GSM networks, but through the call handlers. And I know these are independent different systems, but it's all about how it worked with me, to be honest and transparent about the whole situation. Good communication and no distortion on both sides, including no duplex issues with talking. Very crisp and clear. No failed calls at all. All our SIMs connected to the alarm control centres when test calls were made after the correct templates and device programming was completed, which would be done at a basic functional level prior to any of that being done in a normal environment. I have to add that the process management from the Carium side and from the council, just to respectfully acknowledge this, I found the information that was provided by Carium was very clear and easy to follow, enabled me to have a good understanding of the rSIM's capability and the testing schedules as well, and for me to plan the testing dates around my work and my rota so that I would be able to be part of this. The literature that came from Carium also provided was help me update my colleagues within the tech team within the council as to the briefings they gave and the work under been taken, as well as the clear benefits of having the rSIM. So I'd just like to say thanks to yourself, Gary, and also Simon, the tech support engineer, and Warren, the key counter manager at Carium. Without the support and being able to get a response within a matter of minutes, if not, that day, it led to where we are today and me being able to express how things went. And also just to touch upon Declan Doyle at the art management in the council, along with Amy Brown and Gilla Boyle for the testing support as well, which was conveyed.
Thank you so much, Andy. I mean, it's important to say that you didn't have, access to ELISAs, prior to this kind of test process. Like you said, although you're investing in those moving forward, this was probably your first exposure to an ELISA as well. So, we really, really appreciate, all of the feedback that you've given, thorough as always, along with many of our other customers. And, we were really pleased to have you as part of the journey. So thanks so much, Andy. Over to you, Tim, then, sir. It would be, again, very good for the audience, if you don't mind, to just briefly introduce yourself and give yourself an outline of the role that you play within the TSA, albeit probably somewhat of a celebrity in the sector, Tim.
I don't know. I'm not sure if every supplier would agree with that, but yeah, definitely. sort of try and get my hands in as many pies as possible. And no, it was really good. Thank you for the invite to do the testing. From a TSA perspective, with the Tech Services Association, for those who haven't come across us before, we're the industry body for telecare and telehealth, and essentially what we support members and non-members along that sort of analog to digital journey, of which resilience, and particularly digital resilience, as we're encouraging people to move from analog to digital, is a major challenge, for us, and that's why the any development in the sector is really welcome. We're device agnostic, but we encourage our or the suppliers within the sector to to provide us with devices so that we can carry out our testing. I'm going to say my testing was nowhere near as comprehensive as Andy's, but it was great to hear the amount of effort that Andy could put into that, and essentially we don't have our own alarm receiving centre, as you can imagine, but we can interconnect with different organisations, and the testing that we carried out echoed Andy's comments really around. We were able to see that during those periods of downtime that the unit continued to operate, and also we found the device management platform. I'm sort of used to using it from before, but yeah, thought it was great, the amount of different configurations you could put onto the units and things like that, which and you could force the unit into using 2G, 3G, 4G signals, and seeing how that copes. I'm not going to say that every call was 100%, and that's because of we tried to use it in areas where there was poor signal and things like that, but it certainly performed above and beyond our expectations.
Thanks, Tim. So, I mean, and naturally, there's been some, concern over recent years, with digital resilience and how mobile plays a stable part in the telecare journey, kind of moving forward. So, what's your thoughts and what's the TSA's perspective and guidance around digital telecare, sort of in a brief nutshell?
We've put out guidance which essentially tells people to have two different ways of connecting to the outside world. So whether that's dual SIM or rSIM or SIM plus Ethernet, it's about understanding that there's that there needs to be more than one way of connecting those devices to the outside world. I know that in particular the device that we were using for testing, the ELISA S, does have those, and particularly the S Plus does have those different ways of connecting, and that's what we work with people to try and eliminate those single points of failure, so that if, for example, there is some kind of outage, be that an internet outage, be it a voice outage, or whatever that looks like, it's trying to get around that in a way that there's not going to be that signal storm that you mentioned earlier that takes down some of the art platforms as happened in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as you saw, we provided you with a couple of the ELISAs, and they've, as you said, got different connectivity options. We're probably one of the small number of providers that have a choice, to offer our customers. And just finally, Tim, and thanks for your feedback today. From your limited rSIM tests that you completed, what do you feel, will be the wider benefits, for the tech sector, for the people on this call moving forward?
I think it's giving people that reassurance. I'm going to say that until we suffer another significant outage that we haven't seen, touch wood, for a number of months now, then people won't know for definite. But I think it gives people that additional layer of protection. There are still going to be, potentially some challenges there, but I mean that the rSIM is certainly up there with dual SIM providers using the same management infrastructure. And I think also the added benefit is the retrofitting option, so people don't feel like they've got to go out and buy new digital units. Those who have kind of invested already don't feel like, oh, if only I'd waited another 12 months and waited for a different type of SIM. It can be retroactive and retrospectively fitted.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for providing your insight, Tim. We're really pleased to have you available on the call today. So, no doubt we'll see you soon, and you'll join us for the Q&A session very, very shortly. So, thank you. If you wouldn't mind just popping your camera off and your mic for the time being. And that's also about it from me. You'll be pleased to know. For the time being, I'll be back a little bit later for the Q&A with both Tim and Andy. But for the time being, it's been a pleasure, and I'll hand over to our head of sales, Wayne, to summarise.
Thank you very much, Gary. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see so many people have joined. Share my screen and start my slides. Okay, yeah, so I'm Wayne O'Donnell. I worked for Carium for nearly 10 years, providing telecare product support, product training, and hand-holding through the analog to digital switch. So we've been providing things like analog buyback offers, always solution driven, and using the digital dispersed units for scheme solutions as well, for scheme upgrades. So two SIM cards in one, no extra cost. It is a game changer, and it's available now. So in fact, Carium stores have delivered over 900 ELISA rSIM digital units only last week to various customers. And special mention to Milton Keynes, who was the first service provider to install a new ELISA with the rSIM in the real world. So I'm really excited about this, and the main advantage being that during a SIM outage, the SIM will continue to work on the backup profile automatically. It doesn't need to be during an alarm activation for the SIM to detect that there is an outage. It's all automatic. It's a smarter, more intelligent way to ensure that the end user is connected to the alarm receiving centre as quickly as possible. I understand that the priority is that the digital telecare units continue to work during a SIM outage. However, in addition to this, with iCare Online's powerful search options, we've added key functionality, so APIs, so that at any time you can search and see if your rSIMs are on the primary or the backup profile. So it just gives you that peace of mind and confidence that the technology is working. And internally, Carium are also working on ways to demonstrate the benefits of rSIM with a suite of different reporting tools when units are out and working in the field. Compatibility, so the rSIM is compatible with our ELISA family of 4G products. A choice of models offering various connection options to the alarm receiving centre, including Wi-Fi, Ethernet and rSIM for more than dual resilience. Connection options for your telecare peripherals includes the traditional radio frequency, but also for added value, it includes Bluetooth and Zigbee capability, so allowing the units to connect to future products such as smart plugs and Internet of Things. If you have ELISA products in stock or out in the field, the rSIM is compatible with these. It's easy to retrofit, and we'll also supply a sticker which can just demonstrate that the rSIM swap has been completed. And we're also going to be looking at integrating the rSIM into our flagship Abby GPS device moving forward. Compatibility testing has been done with various platforms, including UMO, Ansalink and Evo. Sky Response tested and verified Friday just gone, and Tunstall testing in progress. So the screenshot that you can see is that our DMP, as you know, the iCare Online, and it shows the changes that we've done to the product details page, which now shows 2 SIM CLI numbers, and it also tells you the active SIM that's currently being used. We're here to help, so please contact either myself, Lucy, Warren or Tracy. And if you require any further information, and we're happy to set up meetings over Teams, or we can arrange a visit in person, whatever works best for you. We'll be as flexible as we can. We just want to make sure that this improvement to our products run as smooth as possible, and we will work closely with you to make that happen. So communication and collaborative partnership working is key. And just before I hand over, just to apologise, I'm having technical difficulties with my camera, so I'm hoping you could hear me loud and clear, but unfortunately I couldn't turn on my video. But I'll now hand over back to Joe for an interactive Q&A session with the speakers shown, and please still use the Q&A option in the webinar as well if you have any questions yourselves. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks so much. So the next session really is as Wayne said, is the interactive session that we're now going to do. So thanks to everyone that's spoken so far. I'm going to, maybe we don't need the slide, but just for orientation, I'll just pop it up there. So yeah, so just to say, we're going to have a session now with all of the speakers that we've had to date, but also Max Stevens is also going to join us. So Max is somebody from CSL that have really initiated this technology, and we've been working incredibly closely with them, and delighted that Max can join us today. So I'm going to stop sharing, and yeah, I'm going to probably start from the top. We've got everyone here, so we've got about 20 minutes to go. So appreciate that we've only had a couple of questions, but now that you've had the opportunity obviously to hear the speakers and see what we've covered, please do pop any other questions into that. While we've got the experts here, let's make sure that we maximise their time and we get the information we need from them. So first up is Samuel O'Brien. So thanks for the question, Samuel. So Samuel says, are TSA going to be recommending that something like the rSIM is used with all digital devices? And then he goes on to ask, what are other telecare suppliers doing? So Tim, probably over to you on that one.
Yeah, so actually we already have in a fashion recommended that in terms of our analog to digital guidance recommends two different ways of contacting the outside world. So this qualifies as that method. So historically, I guess before rSIM was developed, the dual SIM would have been the same functionality. So the rSIM would emulate that functionality of a dual SIM from a single, if you like, from a single managed service operator. The alternative is, and one that we would recommend as well, I know certainly the ELISA S Plus covers this, is that there is that hardwired functionality as well, that sort of Ethernet cable functionality, so that if there are parts of the UK we know that don't have that ubiquitous mobile coverage, and we know the cellular networks are changing at the moment, but that's a recommendation as well.
I guess it's important to say, Tim, as well, that certainly from a caring point of view, and it'll be the same for many other organisations that go through the kind of annual TSA audit, that one of the questions that is reinforced through that process is, are you buying digital? No longer buying analog products, and also to highlight that there's the introduction of the end-to-end resilience kind of parameters as well. Which moving forward, a dual path product like this would obviously also help, with that process too.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, Gary.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tim. No, really appreciate that. I mean, it's obviously something that we're getting asked a lot in relation to this, because you have published that guidance, and as you've explained, obviously with some of our devices, we've taken that multi-channel communication approach. So it really is about what do people want, and we can offer that tailored approach depending on the type of solution that people are looking for. I suppose the other question, you probably covered that off really, about what other telecare suppliers are doing. You know, there are some out there that are using, as you say, dual SIM, but you know, we're offering a comparable solution here. So
I think that so if I just to add to that as well, I think there are solutions out there, and there's a range of pricing for those digital solutions, and I would just urge everyone on the call to kind of, you know, because I understand where we are at the moment as an industry, and you know, business cases are there, and it is very difficult to find that investment for digital. But I would just urge people to kind of look at that functionality and make sure that when that investment is being made, that it's been made in those multi-path products, different ways of getting to the outside world. Look at the functionality and things like that. So it might be slightly more expensive than some other units on the market, but there is that functionality there to match.
Great point, Tim. No, really appreciate that. And as I say, and as Tim said, you know, reach out to us. We've got a lot of experience of working with our existing customers, helping them think through those options and take a risk-based approach to it. So, you know, anyone on the call who hasn't reached out, please do reach out to us. So question here from Stephen. It's going to be quite a short Q&A session. We've got one more question here. Max, did you want to come in on that prior question, or
no, on Stephen's question when you
right, okay, great stuff, thanks. So okay then, so yeah, Stephen asks, can the rSIM be retrofitted to the Care IP alarm?
And yeah, so firstly, just quickly, my name is Max Stevens. I'm head of Telecare at CSL. We supply connectivity for Telecare devices, and the rSIM is part of the CSL family of products. So to answer Stephen's question of whether the rSIM can be retrofitted to the Care IP, and also more broadly 2G devices, unfortunately the answer to that is no. It is compatible with 4G devices, but there is a difference in the modules between 2G and 3G and 4G, which enables the SIM itself to generate that polling heartbeat that Gary spoke about, and only 4G capable modules are able to do that. The device is able to do that heartbeat regardless of which technology it's using, so it can do the heartbeat on 2G and it can do the heartbeat on 3G. But the module itself needs to be capable of 4G for it to work. So it's not backwards compatible to the Care IP family of devices, but you can retrofit it to existing ELISAs in the field.
Brilliant, thanks Max.
And it's also important to say that, you know, although the rSIM isn't compatible with the 2G products in the Care IP, you know, the Care IP does have an onboard Ethernet port available as well. So you can still, you know, where possible, we know that everybody hasn't got broadband, and deployment of broadband is, you know, not as we would want it to be in this country yet. But you have that option to connect to broadband if required. Thanks for your account on that, Max. Really appreciate it.
Great point, Gav. So, okay, so we'll go in terms of longest question first that was put on. So thanks, Louise. So Louise Reynolds asked, did the testing cover any not spot zones, and did it reduce any not spot zone areas? So when you answer this, Gaz, probably just explain what a not spot zone is for the rest of the people on the call.
Of course. So I assume where Louise is going with this is that, you know, rural areas potentially where they don't have any mobile signal coverage available. It's important to highlight that there are obviously areas of the country that, you know, have these not spot zones or dead spots, you know, however you want to call them, black spots, etc. But, you know, it's really dependent on the deployment of technology, because where you've had historically maybe a 2G, you know, Telecare device, you may not have 2G capable technology available in that area, i.e., you know, one of the UK local networks doesn't have coverage in that area, so you know, it's either a very poor signal or no coverage at all. But certainly many of the areas where, you know, we've taken, for instance, Max's CSL's signal strength analyzer, not his personally, but one produced by CSL, you know, we've taken that product out and done, you know, various signal analysis of particular areas where customers said that that's been been challenging, they have had 4G coverage available. So, an ELISA product in that sense, with the added resilience of rSIM, would have been a perfect solution in that particular area. So, but, going back to your question about the testing process, many customers, including rural areas like Cumbria, etc., did indeed, test these products. Did we see an improvement? I don't think we can get around, the fact that there might be poor coverage in certain areas. But what we did see is that where there was potentially an issue in the local area with a mobile network, it transitioned a lot quicker to another available local network because of that consistent heartbeat and poll that's going on within the device.
Brilliant. Gaz, I think the next question from Helen, and no problem, Helen, it's always good to ask the question. So Helen asks, if the alarm unit has an rSIM installed and there is no signal in the property from the primary SIM provider, will it automatically switch to the secondary provider, even though there has been no outage on the primary one? So will it automatically, I guess, poll them for the stronger provider?
Yeah, really
Max,
good question, Helen. Really good question, and I know Max was popping his hand up for the last question as well, so I'll lead into to him on this. But in reality, those two profiles on that SIM card, the primary and the backup, they have access to the same local networks available. So it's likely if it doesn't get a signal on the primary profile, it won't get a signal on the backup profile. But I would urge you to potentially look at different technologies or different connectivity options in that circumstance, like Ethernet or another available technology. But I'll hand over to Max to add to that.
Yeah, so just to agree with Gary, really. But what the rSIM unfortunately can't yet do is invent a signal where one doesn't exist. So it will only work if there is an existing network coverage. However, both profiles do have access to all UK networks across all technologies. So 2G, 3G, 4G, obviously where they exist, with 3G being switched off over the next sort of 18 months. But so both have got all networks, but the solution to local network issues remains the same as it is today, which is that, like I say, those profiles have got access to all networks, and the device will move the SIM from, say, Vodafone UK to O2 UK when Vodafone isn't available, or vice versa, and EE and 3 as well, of course. But local network issues is resolved during that 10-minute period of the heartbeat to move to a different local network in that event. The purpose of switching from profile to profile is in the rare, but of course when it happens it's devastating because it's everything all at once, situation where the core network goes down. So it doesn't remove not spot zones, but the fact that both have got access to all UK networks gives you the maximum opportunity to connect to a network. And then stuff like the signal analyzer that Gary spoke before will help you to find the best location within the property to install the device. But ultimately there will be a very small number of places where there is no mobile signal at all.
And just to touch, Max, on bring Andy in at this point. I know that Andy and his team at South Lanarkshire have used the signal analyzers for this very purpose. So correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but I know your team on installs now do take the signal analyzer out there just to double check the signal available and potentially to evaluate what technology you use moving forward.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, we use the CSL signal analyzer, in particular in difficult installs where they might be restricted access to a signal, as I spoke about and touched upon. It's trying to find that in the best locality area within the property, as well as looking at the geographic and environmental factors that play hazards with the signalling, as we often see. But yeah, it's utilised it for sure, as well as we did with the testing, to make sure that we tested on different lasers with the rSIM and properties that did have poor signals, and that was mainly office environments for myself. The CSL signal analyzer was absolutely invaluable.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks, Andy.
Great stuff. Okay, so the question from Jeremy about how much do they cost, I've asked Wayne to just answer that in the chat, so you can comment against that, Wayne, and then you can answer that so we can cover these last few questions. So they're getting really nice and technical, these ones. So if a call is triggered during the 10 minutes during which the SIM searches for signal before going on to backup, would that call still make it to the ARC once the switch to backup is complete. So it's just in that sort of 10-minute window.
So I'll take this initially, and then I'll just pass over to Max for some additional comments. Whenever we deploy, digital devices, we always recommend, a couple of resilient paths, i.e., you would have a primary ARC destination, a backup ARC destination, and also a backup voice only or Telecare protocol interaction as well. So if for any reason, the device couldn't get data for any reason whatsoever, then it would still use the backup failover options to get to its destination. But in regards to that 10-minute period, I'll let Max, because he's got a wider view of the rSIM than certainly me, to answer that in a better way that I would.
Yeah, so I'll answer that one, and I'll also tie in. Louise came back with a second question, which I think ties into this as well, about the 10 minutes. So I mean, whether it would still put the call through or not once it's switched is up to the device. And I think Gary sort of already answered that, which is that yes, it will. Once it's swapped, it will still be going through its mechanism of trying the different routes, and will, once it's up, send that through. The 10 minutes itself, to answer Louise's question, yeah, that is correct. There would be a 10-minute period where the heartbeats are failing, where it wouldn't be able to send data. That is specifically data. Voice may still be working during that period. That would depend, of course, on the outage itself. But I guess the key thing to sort of highlight here is that 10 minutes is from the start of the outage, not from triggering a call or anything like that. And as a general rule, of course, not 100% of the time, but generally most core network outages tend to start in the middle of the night. So the expectation would be that from the start of the outage, there'd be 10 minutes, and then they would switch. They will then be on the correct profile for 12 hours before trying the primary profile again. During that 12 hours where they're on the backup profile, there's no delay in making that call or anything like that. The call is instant from pressing it. The actual switch from profile A to profile B, we see take around 7 seconds as well. But you just have that 10-minute period, which is confirming essentially that the issue is a core network outage rather than a local outage, because the majority of issues that devices will see will be related to local networks, and the method of moving from one local network to another with a roaming SIM will remain the same. What we don't want to do, of course, is to switch too soon from Tele2 to Deutsche Telekom when the issue sits with the local network, and you come back up on the same local network and have the exact same problem again, and you'd basically end up switching core networks without resolving the underlying problem, which is a local network issue.
And also, just for some added reassurance, for instance, what we also tested within the test process was that where we activate an alarm through to the alarm receiving centre, and an operator takes that alarm, we keep that call open, and then we physically triggered or simulated an outage, that voice call maintained connectivity during that period of time until the call was ended. And then at that point, when the call was ended, it then automatically, within 7 seconds, switched the profile. So, what I think we want to reiterate there is that, this hasn't been an overnight thing. We've been through some resilient testing, and this concept has been around for some years, Max. I think it's nice to see this come to fruition after the years of hard work that we've gone through.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Thanks everyone. So just answering multitasking here. I'm just answering Jeremy's question myself. So I think, did we pick up just Helen's point, because we were talking about it, was about why a 10-minute window? Why not a 15-minute window or a 5-minute window? What was the rationale on the 10-minute window?
Yeah, so the rationale on 10 minutes is based around the length of time to cycle through local networks.
Right, brilliant.
So we were confident that after 10 minutes it would be a core network outage rather than a local outage. So 10 minutes was long enough to allow that, but we didn't want to go longer than we needed to, which is why we settled on 10. And I think that's been borne out through the testing as well.
Yeah, thanks, Max. I'm conscious we're at 12 now. I don't know if people are dropping out, but we're nearly there. So last few questions. Appreciate everyone for hanging on. That's great. So does the I'm guessing, is this alarm unit compatible with Bellman's pager kit? Now, I'm guessing it means the sort of Eliza or the Eliza S, or basically any one of our devices that has the rSIM installed.
Yes, absolutely. I'll take that question. It is compatible with Bellman's pager range, and also its associated range of products as well. And obviously, if we can help you, within that process, then please do reach out to your key account manager and give you some more information and the price list for those products as well.
Amazing, thanks, Gaz. So yeah, last question really. So I understood, this is from Marie. I understood that CSL was the backbone. When you refer to backbone, do you mean Tele2 and Deutsche Telekom, not CSL? And then the secondary part of that is, if CSL does go down, is there any backup, or would we need one?
Yeah, so I think I'm probably the person to answer this as well. So the two core networks are Tele2 and Deutsche Telekom. However, CSL is the backbone, like you say, that sits beneath it. And all traffic will go from local network to core network through CSL to the monitoring centre. We are looking at different solutions that would avoid CSL in the event of an issue with CSL. However, CSL do have dual redundant data centres and stuff like that. And I always hate talking about this because I feel as though you tempt fate if you say something, don't you? But CSL have had the infrastructure that we use for Telecare for I think 8 years now. And in that time, we've had one issue, which was last June for 3.5 hours. Most of the issues that we do see do tend to be core network outages. But ultimately, yeah, if CSL goes down, then the alarms wouldn't be able to signal through to the monitoring centre. However, we are looking at solutions that would avoid CSL, as I've said, and it's only the data that goes through CSL. So voice doesn't go through CSL. So if you have a backup mechanism which would rely on pure voice, which is also a core network service and tends to be the last to go, then that would continue to work in the event that CSL was unavailable.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks,
and
Max.
just to reiterate as well that CSL, we are CSL's largest customer. We're well over 400,000 devices deployed with SIMs in them globally. So we get fantastic support from CSL. Very, very reactive, and equally, Marie, I think, asked the question, if there are any other technical questions on the infrastructure that we can help you with, or Max can help you with, then by all means just reach out to us separately, and we can absolutely take a call with you for that.
Fantastic, Gaz. Brilliant. Well, look, conscious of everyone's time, great that we've had 62 people stay on. Obviously, it was of real interest. So it just leaves me to say thanks all the speakers for their time, and also I would say all the work that's got us to today. This has been months and months of planning and activity and testing and coordination that has really gone into this, and we're absolutely delighted we've got such a fantastic approach out the other side. So thanks very much, Tim, Max, Andy, Gary, and thanks to Charlene as well for making all the magic happen in the background, and to Wayne as well. So thanks everyone for your time. All our details are on the chat. Please do reach out to us for anything, and thanks for all your time, and have a great day today. Bye everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Hold on.
Thank you.